Hey folks, Joe Morris with Answers Heaven Speaks. It is Monday. And yes, we're going to continue with the story of Jesus. Who talks about Jesus on a Monday? Didn't we all do that yesterday when we went to church on a Sunday? Well, many of you probably did not go to church. But anyway, hopefully everybody had a real good weekend. I'm Joe Morris. My daughter is Marisa Moris Bolanowski, and she is a clear channel, clairvoyant, and we'll see if she can join us today. We have stopped doing shows over 1 hour. It's amazing how far Facebook will send this out, and I need to get my headphones on here. Hang tight, folks, because if Marissa, I'm gonna have to be on these. So let me get these in there. Yeah. Otherwise, I won't hear her, and she won't hear me. Anyway, Marissa's a clairvoyant, clear channel. And so if you check up there where it says Learn More, up there in the top right corner, you can go to Marissa's website. It's called Discover Intuition, and it gives you a good idea who Marissa is. And we have lots of books. It's all having to do with channeling. I became engrossed in the channelings of Jesus by the Urantia book. I was introduced to it in around 1997 or 1998. And I was baptized in 1998 with Marissa. We both were baptized together. And I definitely felt it. I felt like this big cloud had been lifted off me. Marissa didn't feel anything. But it all comes in due time, I guess. In God's time, we get to recognize Him. Anyway, so Marissa and I do these shows Monday through Friday. She comes in when she can. She's a young mother, and she's got a busy life, and so she can't always. I'm retired, so she can't always get on here when I'd like her to. But we'll see if we can get her in today. In fact, let me check to see if she's getting ready to come in. We did a show on Saturday, which is unusual for us. Okay, no, she's not there. I don't know if we're going to catch her today. And we did an hour on Muhammad and Gabriel. Keep in mind, for those of you who don't know, or maybe you do know, the Quran, the Holy Quran, is supposedly all God. It was channeled. Muhammad channeled Gabriel, and so every word that was coming from Gabriel was the word of God. And he, because he was illiterate, he didn't know how to write anything down, so he would memorize what was told to him, and then he would repeat that to somebody who would write it down. They keep referring to the book, but there was no book when Muhammad died in the year 632 A.D. And there was no book. His friends put together some sayings about 20 years later, in I think about 652, 653, and then that book disappeared. Copies of it were made and sent out to 5 different parishes, mosques around Arabia at that time, that actually scooted on over into like Turkey, and that was the Seleucids or the Ottoman Empire. I don't know what empire. They're always changing rules up in there, but anyway, so we channeled Gabriel and Muhammad this weekend. Not so much Muhammad. We really channeled Gabriel, and my intent was to read a verse and then have Gabriel say, "Yep, I said that," or "Nope, didn't say that." But we didn't get that far. We really didn't get that far in the hour because there was too many nopes. No. And if there was even one no, then it can't be right. It just can't be right. But Gabriel was willing to tell us this if we did it off live broadcasting. And so we did that just in a taped show on Saturday. And I'm going to leave it up to Marisa as to whether she wants to go ahead and put that out there. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting hour of channeling with Gabriel. So we'll see if Marisa will want to release that or not. We're going to have to talk to Gabriel and see if he says it's okay to go ahead and release it. But we don't want to detract anybody from their religion. It's not our goal to say Christianity is right and Islam is wrong, or the Sikh religion is correct and the Hindu religion is wrong. No, we're not here to do that. Somehow, some way, many years ago, when we first started doing this, we started doing this channeling back in 2011, almost exactly 12 years ago. As a matter of fact, it has been 12 years now, because we did it at the very end of November in 2011. We're in essence starting up a new cycle. There's 12, nothing's the same after 12 years. You start all over again. Even your body, you do not have the same cells in your body that you had 7 years ago, because you will cleanse. Every cell in your body will be displaced by new cells, so that every 7 years you do not have the same cells that you did 7 years prior. So, not sure why I got into that. Not sure. I get lost. But anyway, so we did do that, and we'll see if Marisa is willing to bring that up, because my intent is not to steal anybody away from their religion, because Jesus gave us a really good parable called the parable of the orchard. And Jesus said, look, let people worship however they want to worship. Leave them alone. And that was the big problem, because the Quran, the first 300, 400 verses in the Quran, taking you up to and through maybe chapter 3, actually gets you closer to about 500 verses. Everything's fine. Don't see any problem. Everything's in the glory of Allah. Allah is great, and you'll be judged by Allah, and blah blah blah. But all of a sudden, in about the 4th chapter, getting up into about the 600 and 700th verses, all of a sudden, authority is being given to Muhammad to judge others. And that's what really got me to want to ask Gabriel, did you really give him authority as an arbiter for God? And he said, no, that was Abaddon. And apparently we have to be very careful when we do our channeling, because we do not want anything negative to come in. Even though we say a prayer, we protect ourselves in the snow globe, the armor of God. We ask that we're completely protected. But, Lucifer's sneaky. He can sneak in and look like somebody else. So we have to be real careful. And many times we reread anything that we've done, that we have transcribed, and we reread it again to see if it was correct the first time around. 90% of the time it is. But there are some times when things come through. And they did tell us, Gabriel did tell us that as much as he wanted to inspire Muhammad, Muhammad went kind of cuckoo, and he allowed Abaddon come in. And Abaddon gave him a lot of lessons that are in the Quran that don't belong there, truly don't belong there. But again, if you keep it simplistic, if you're a Muslim and you're more like a Christian, Christians don't read the Bible. Name me somebody who's read the Bible. They say, I'm a Christian. Go, okay, well, what does John 16:3 say? Or John 6:13 say? And they'll go, which book? Oh, is that in the Bible? Most Christians don't read the Bible. They get to see maybe one verse or two verses on a Sunday, and then the preacher talks about that verse and applies it to their daily life. That's why they told us in 100 years there's not even going to be religion. What catastrophic is going to happen so that 100 years from now we'd have no religion? There basically is going to be spiritualists. Everybody's going to become spiritualists. Everybody's going to have their own relationship with God, and it's not going to be institutionalized. Religion will not be institutionalized. So it's kind of goofy to see what's going to happen. So anyway, don't want to get into any secular things going on in the world right now. The world's a mess. And, I've gotten to the point where it's exhausting. It's exhausting to keep up with the news and to keep my emotions in check because I get so mad when I see people who lie. Lying is my number one no-no. Don't lie. Don't lie. Just tell the truth and deal with the consequences of the truth. Don't lie. And it seems like whenever I turn on TV, I see another lie and another lie and another lie and another lie, and there's just lying after lying after lying. And it's like, all these people are in charge of me? I mean, these are leaders within our own country and around the world, and they supposedly are speaking for me? No. When they're lying? No. But it's okay, because technically, we're all spirit. We all have the Spirit of God that lives within us, lives within our head. And He knows what's going on with us every moment of every day, but He doesn't interfere because He gives us our free will. And in order to do His will, we have to freely give away our will by saying, God, please subordinate my will to your will, that your will be done in my life today. And then see where it goes. Because what you've done with that simple little thing is like turning on a computer. You've turned on God to be your protector. Anyway, where we are in the story, let me get a little sideways here. Where we are in the story with Jesus is he's still down in the Jerusalem area going into the Passover. It's the first beginning of his ministry, and they've gone down into Jerusalem. And they're pretty much staying in some surrounding towns because all of a sudden the Pharisees and the Sadducees have got their eyebrows raised. And they're going, who is this guy? What is he preaching? And so he doesn't do too much preaching. He's pretty much letting the apostles do it. But one day he's sitting there with his apostles. He took them, they were getting worn out. They're hitting burnout stage. And Jesus said, come on, let's take a few days off. So they go off into the hills, and they decide not to think about all the things because it's like Marisa, when she does a session with somebody who is loaded with negative emotions or with a lot of negative entities, she can take them on. As she releases them from her client, it's possible that they come in and attach to Marisa. And then Marisa has to go see another expert to have those removed from her. So anyway, Jesus said, let's go take a break. Let's not even think about what we've been talking about, what you've been preaching. You've got a lot of people were getting up into the face of the apostles, debating them, and they were frustrated. And Jesus said, well, let's get rid of some of those frustrations. Let's take a few days off. So they go up into the hills, and they're not far from Jacob's well. Jacob was the son of Isaac, and then it's his lineage that continuing with the story of Joseph, and then on into David and Solomon, etc., etc. But when Jesus is out there with his apostles and they're taking this break, he says, I'll see you guys later. Normally what Jesus does is he just gets up and walks away. He doesn't even say, I'll see you later. He just gets up and walks away and freaks out the apostles. This time he said, I'm going to go off and I'm going to go talk to the Father. So he takes off and he goes up to Jacob's well and he meets a lady. So we did go over this briefly on Friday. I wanted to go over the whole story today, and we'll wrap it up because I don't think, before I get into that story, let's see if Marissa's got anything to say, because it looks like she's coming in. And we do have to keep these. You would not believe the difference in whether we are 1 hour, if we're less than 1 hour, and if we're over 1 hour. It's amazing how far our shows go out. They don't go that far. They really don't go that far when it goes over an hour. But under an hour, you'd be amazed at how many. We had over 100,000 views from Friday's show. We had, for the first time, we went over 1,000 likes in one show. Just one show had over 1,000 likes and hearts. So we want to thank all of you. Thank all of you for continuing on, and your curiosity is bringing you back and wondering, what's Marisa going to say today? Is she going to channel, is Marisa going to channel Jesus and give us a lesson today? I'm sending an invite. Unable to add guest. I can't add Marisa. You see, she's in there, but she's on the wrong thing. I can't. I can approve. I'll approve Marisa. Send invite. Says unable to add guest. Marisa, you go from one day to the next, you forget which phone to use and which entity to come in. And I don't even remember what it is. But anyway, I can't get you in. Anyway, the water of Jacob's well was less mineral than that from the wells of Sychar, and was therefore much valued for drinking purposes. Jesus was thirsty, but there was no way of getting water from the well. And when, therefore, a woman of Sychar came up with her water pitcher and prepared to draw from the well, Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." Now, if you know or remember the history of the time of Jesus, men didn't speak to women. That was like a major no-no. You don't talk to women. Women do not talk to men in public. That's like an absolute no-no. And the other thing is the woman is Samaritan and Jesus is a Jew. And Samaritans don't talk to Jews, and Jews don't talk to Samaritans. There's just a real hate. The Samaritans are a sect of the Jewish faith, but they aren't as pure. They have a lot of mixture of other communities. They have mixed heritage. And so the Jews just don't think that they're pure. And the Samaritans just call Jews hypocrites. Anyway, this woman of Samaria knew Jesus was a Jew by his appearance and his dress, and she surmised that he was a Galilean Jew from his accent. Her name was Nalda, and she was a comely creature. She was pretty. She was a pretty lady. She was much surprised to have a Jewish man thus speak to her at the well and ask for water, for it was not deemed proper in those days for a self-respecting man to speak to a woman in public, much less for a Jew to converse with a Samaritan. Therefore, Nalda asked Jesus, "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a Samaritan woman?" And Jesus answered, "I have indeed asked you for a drink, but if you could only understand, you would ask me for a draught of the living water instead." Nalda probably crunched up her face like I just crunched up my face here. Then said Nalda, "But, sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Whence, then, have you this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well, and who drank thereof himself, and his sons, and his cattle as well?" Jesus replied, "Everyone who drinks of this water will thirst again. He who drinks of just water will thirst again. But whosoever drinks of the water of the living Spirit shall never thirst again." You know, put yourself in Nalda's position. She's sitting there. He's going, "This guy's not supposed to be talking to me. He's a man. I'm not supposed to be alone with a man. He's a Jew. I'm a Samaritan. Oh my God, people are going to kill me. They're going to kill him too." And now this guy's talking about living water. What living water and spirit? What's that? So, "And this living water shall become in him a well of refreshment, springing up even to eternal life." Nalda then said, "Give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come all the way hither to draw. Besides, anything which a Samaritan woman could receive from such a commendable Jew would be a pleasure." That's what she's saying. So she's not worried about too much about getting caught. Sorry. Fortunately, my my entire electricity keeps going off. My light has gone off. Lights are going off. But my modem is hooked up properly next door. So hopefully we won't lose the live feed here. But my electricity here is going crazy. What else is new? We've been trying to get our electrician to come and fix this for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and we just can't get him to come over here. But, it's Mexico. That's Mexico. You want something done today? Good luck. Good luck. Anyway, Nalda did not know how to take Jesus' willingness to talk with her. She beheld in the Master's face the countenance of an upright and holy man, but she mistook friendliness for commonplace familiarity, and she misinterpreted his figure of speech as a form of making advances. She thought he was coming after her. And being a woman of lax morals, again, most people confuse Nalda with Mary Magdalene. Two completely different stories, two different completely women. And being a woman of lax morals, she was minded openly to become flirtatious with Jesus. Looking straight into her eyes with a commanding voice, Jesus said, "Woman, go get your husband and bring him here." Now this command brought Nalda to her senses. She saw that she had misjudged the Master's kindness. She perceived that she had misconstrued his manner of speech. She was frightened. She began to realize that she stood in the presence of an unusual person and groping about in her mind for a suitable reply. In great confusion, she said, "But sir, I cannot call my husband, for I have no husband." Then Jesus freaks her out. Here's what Jesus said. He said, "You have spoken the truth, for while you may have once had a husband, he with whom you are now living is not your husband. Better it would be if you would cease to trifle with my words and seek for the living water which I have this day offered to you." So he's offering back the living water, Spirit. By this time, Nalda was sobered and her better self was awakened. She was not an immoral woman, holy by choice. She had been ruthlessly and unjustly cast aside by her husband, and in dire straits had consented to live with a certain Greek as his wife, but without marriage. Nalda now felt greatly ashamed that she had so unthinkingly spoken to Jesus, and she most penitently addressed the Master, saying, "My Lord, I repent of my manner of speaking to you, for I perceive that you are a holy man, or maybe you're a prophet." End quote. And she was just about to seek direct and personal help from the Master when she did what so many have done before and since dodged the issue of personal salvation by turning to the discussion of theology and philosophy instead. She quickly turned the conversation from her own needs to a theological controversy. Pointing over to Mount Gerizim, she continued, "Our fathers worshipped on this mountain." Mount Gerizim is a very special place. And it's going to keep popping up in the story of Jesus, Mount Gerizim. I believe a first temple was built on Mount Gerizim, but I'm not sure. Got to go back. It's amazing. I read these stories and they're just so great, and then by the next day I forget. I mean, it's terrible to get old. Your brain just doesn't want to absorb anything. It's like this information comes in, it's like it's hitting bricks and bouncing off instead of going into a sponge and staying there. So I apologize if I forget certain things. And sometimes I have to read the stories 2 or 3 times for it to sink in. Now, pointing over to Mount Gerizim, she continued, saying, "Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and yet you would say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. Which then is the right place to worship God?" So yeah, I guess the Jews originally had built a temple up on Mount Gerizim, but I believe that was destroyed at the time of the Maccabees, and that was about 50 BC, about 50 years 70 years prior to Jesus meeting Nalda. Now Jesus perceived the attempt of the woman's soul to avoid direct and searching contact with its maker. But he also saw that there was present in her soul a desire to know the better way of life. After all, there was in Nalda's heart a true thirst for the living water. Therefore, he dealt patiently with her, saying, this is Jesus, quote, it's being read. These words are being read if they're in the Bible. In the Rancher book, they're not put in red, they're just quoted. Here's what Jesus said. Woman, let me say to you that the day is soon coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. But now you worship that which you know not, a mixture of the religion of many pagan gods and Gentile philosophies. You might want to say that to Paul, because Paul incorporates a lot of Greek philosophy into his teaching. Anyway, the Jews at least know whom they worship. They have removed all confusion by concentrating their worship upon one God, Yahweh. But you should believe me when I say that the hour will soon come, even now is, when all sincere worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For it is just such worshipers the Father seeks. He's not a respecter of persons. He doesn't respect that you follow a particular religion. God respects the fact that you accept him into your life every day. That's the most important thing. And that transgresses religion. It doesn't matter what kind of religion you have. If you're just talking to God, you have a relationship, a personal relationship with the Father. For it is just such worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and they who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Your salvation comes not from knowing how others should worship or where, but by receiving into your own heart this living water, which I am offering you even now. But Nalda would make one more effort to avoid the discussion of embarrassing question of her personal life on earth and the status of her soul before God. Once more she resorted to questions of general religion, saying, Yes, I know, sir, that John has preached about the coming of the converter, he who will be called the deliverer, and that, when he shall come, he will declare to us all things. End quote. And Jesus, interrupting Nalda, said with startling assurance, quote, I who you speak to am he. End quote. So he tells her, I am the deliverer. I am the deliverer. What was the other term he used? Converter. Converter and deliverer. So he admits to Nalda, he says, that's me. That's me. Now this was the first direct, positive, and undisguised pronouncement of his divine nature and sonship which Jesus had made on earth. And it was made to a woman, a Samaritan woman, and a woman of questionable character in the eyes of men up to this moment. But a woman whom the divine eye beheld as having been sinned against more than as sinning of her own desire, and as now being a human soul who desired salvation. Desired it sincerely and wholeheartedly, and that was enough for Jesus. As Nalda was about to voice her real and personal belonging for better things and a more noble way of living, just as she was ready to speak, the real desire of her heart, just as she was ready to speak, the real desire of her heart, the 12 apostles show up. And they return from Sychar, and of course they're going to be pissed off seeing Jesus alone with a woman. Let's see what happens. So the 12 apostles show up just when she was going to spill her heart out. And coming upon the scene of Jesus talking so intimately with this woman, this Samaritan woman of all things, and alone, they were more than astonished. They quickly deposited their supplies and drew aside, no man daring to reprove Jesus, while Jesus said to Nalda, Woman, go your way. God has forgiven you. God has forgiven you. That's Jesus. He says, woman, go your way. God has forgiven you. Henceforth you will live a new life. You have received the living water, and a new joy will spring up within your soul, and you shall become a daughter of the Most High. He's referring to the Father, but I've mentioned this before. The Most High is the God of our constellation. Now, that's who runs our constellations, the Most High. There are gods, plural, but they all come after the one Father. There is no other Father besides the one God. But He's a creator God. He creates all kinds of people, things, even people who have creator abilities. I think we humans can eventually get to the point where we become creators as well. But we've got to go a long way, all the way through our Morancha life, finish this life, go through 570 lives in the Morancha life, and Lord knows how many lives we're going to have to lead while in the spirit after we leave this universe. It's going to be interesting, just really interesting. For all we know, this may not be our first rodeo. It might be that you've already lived 200 of those 570 lives, and somehow, some way, it has become incumbent upon you or your soul to bring you back down here to earth for certain lessons. So we're all here for a lesson, and it would be a shame if you've already completed 250 and then you come down to earth to support that which you've learned over many, many lives in the Morancha life. And then what if you come down here and you screw up on earth again because you got amnesia? You don't remember anything. We don't remember anything. We don't remember being with God first up in heaven before we came down as human beings. We don't remember that. We go over that in our first book, Answers Heaven Speaks. So anyway, Jesus is with this lady, and now his apostles show up. And the apostles are like, what? And the woman, perceiving the disapproval of the apostles, left her water pot and fled to the city. As she entered the city, she proclaimed to everyone she met, "Go out to Jacob's well and go quickly, for there you will see a man who told me all I ever did. Can this be the converter?" End quote. And ere the sun went down, a great crowd had assembled at Jacob's well to hear Jesus. And the Master talked to them more about the water of life, the gift of the indwelling Spirit. The apostles never ceased to be shocked by Jesus' willingness to talk with women of questionable character, even immoral women. It was very difficult for Jesus to teach his apostles that women, even so-called immoral women, have souls which can choose God as their Father, thereby becoming daughters of God and candidates for life everlasting. Even 19 centuries later, many show the same unwillingness to grasp the Master's teachings. Referring now to the 1930s when this book was being transcribed. It was actually channeled and then transcribed from the mid-30s up to the mid-1950s. Even the Christian religion has been persistently built up around the fact of the death of Christ instead of around the truth of his life. The world should be more concerned with his happy and God-revealing life than with his tragic and sorrowful death. Nalda told this entire story to the Apostle John the next day, but he never revealed it fully to the other apostles. Nalda told this entire story to the Apostle John the next day. Well, I thought the 12 apostles were coming to see him. Okay, that I don't understand. Nalda told this entire story to the Apostle John the next day, but he never revealed it fully to the other apostles. And Jesus did not speak of it in detail to the 12. Nalda told John that Jesus had told her all I ever did. John many times wanted to ask Jesus about this visit with Nalda, but he never did. Jesus told her only one thing about herself, but his look into her eyes and the manner of his dealing with her had so brought all of her checkered life in panoramic review before her mind in a moment of time that she associated all of this self-revelation of her past life with the look and the word of the Master. Jesus never told her she had had 5 husbands. She had lived with 4 different men since her husband cast her aside, and this, with all her past, came up so vividly in her mind at the moment when she realized Jesus was a man of God that she subsequently repeated to John that Jesus had really told her all about herself. And then the next one's going to be the Samaritan revival. Don't forget, all those, now the one told all the people, now it's going to be sunset, and all these people are going to go, oh my God, the deliverer's here. They didn't have phones, they didn't have computers, they didn't have any way of communicating other than by word of mouth. Let me check and see if I can get Marissa in here now that I've completed the story of Nalda. And then she'll have a few minutes for us to, I'm going to approve you again. I got Marisa Moris approve. Send in. This one looks like it's going through. Marissa, you'd use something different and it wouldn't add you in. So let's see if Marissa's coming in. Got a few people in here watching live today. Thank you. Julie, Anna, and Marissa. I'll log out then back in. Why would you do that, Marissa? Nope, same as always. Here she comes.
Hello.
There she is. Well, happy Monday to you.
Yeah, happy Monday to you too. I'm on the same account, same phone. It just decides when it wants to work. So I guess the guides wanted you to be able to tell your story today.
Yeah, I wanted to get through that story of Nalda. That was the lady at the well. Most people think that it's Mary Magdalene when they tell the story of the woman at the well, but those are
Really?
two.
Oh, I thought it was Mary Magdalene too. Well, what's interesting to me about the wells and the all that is they're always meeting people at wells. Have you noticed that? There's always that Bella. Oh, she was up on the table. Counter surfing. Just got busted. Yeah, they always talk about people meeting at wells or whatever. And and whenever when I do readings for people and I connect with spirit, a lot of the times I see spirits as one soaking wet, standing there like all wet, like they just got out of the water.
Uh-huh.
And they're just standing there on the side of the shore, just soaking wet. And those are usually, I think, the earthbounds, the ones that are earthbound. But a lot of times I see like almost like we're in a well and I'm looking up and like the channel, that I'm channeling is like coming from like this like circle up there and it looks like a bunch of people looking over into a well. Like we're in a well. Like
Mm-hmm.
so I'm wondering if that well thing is some sort of a metaphor, like we're living in the water or something like that. When we die, we get pulled out of the water. If we're earthbound, we're just stuck out of the water. Baptism has something to do with water. They put
Yeah.
water on you.
Uh-huh.
Jesus told us to not have fear and we could walk on water. There's so much having to do with what Noah got flooded with the water. So I'm wondering if there's something having to do with water, and water doesn't ever get destroyed, right? Water turns into clouds, and they talk about clouds, heaven being harps and clouds, but water turns into clouds that turns into rain that turns back into what it just keeps, transforming. And same with our spirit. Oh, our spirit's water. Our spirit's water. Our spirit's water.
Living water, according to Jesus, our spirit is considered living water. Living water.
Really?
He
Okay, so
he's
that makes sense with the snow globe because the snow globe has water in it. And
yeah.
remember when you couldn't imagine yourself in a snow globe with water, and they said it's because you're not grounded, you're not in your body. So if you say, I am now a snow globe, and you can't imagine water swirling around you, it means that you're not in your body. You're out floating around in the ether somewhere, getting all burned up by the frequencies and the vibrations of everything else going on. But that's really interesting. So Jesus is the living water, right? Don't they say that?
Yes, yes.
Or not
Jesus is
Jesus, Christ is the living water. So Christ is the water.
yes.
Um, Interesting. And then he met this woman at the well or whatever. I just wonder if the wells have anything to do. Can you think of any other times when they talk about wells?
No, but water is pretty predominant throughout the Bible. I mean, and keep in mind, you can't have a you can't have a planet with life on it without water.
Peter does
It's
always say, he always says, we come here for the water. You need to enjoy it. Enjoy the water. Remember? He used to always say, we
yeah,
come here for the water.
yeah.
So well, maybe Peter's here to talk about water. He says, you want me to walk on water, talk about water, dip my head in water, or show you what water really is?
No, we just know that Jesus was using a sample or an example of the water, but calling it the living water, which was to just take in what Jesus was having to say to her, but using it as sort of like a metaphor.
Well,
Um,
Jesus says water is the element or the part of this earth that is something that can be recorded into. Frequencies can be recorded into water. If there is music playing around water and you use that water to water plants, those
mhm,
plants and the water inside of them, if it's music that is disruptive to the cells of that plant, the plant will die. If you play, say, classical, nice high frequency music, music that has a higher emotional key to it, the plants will flourish. You play Metallica and they will die. And that's because the water that is inside the plant, that is also watering the plant, is being imprinted with the music. So music can be imprinted into water, words imprint into water. You can bless water. That's why there's holy water, because
mhm,
the prayers, the frequencies, and the vibrations of one's thoughts can actually be imprinted onto water. And that water will then deliver and bring forth a message to the body to be and do and say or feel certain things based on that water. So if you have people who say horrible things about tap water, but you drink tap water, that's not bad. People always say, oh, well, if you think something bad about something, then it's bad. No, if that water has been places where there is horrible frequencies and horrible vibrations and horrible thoughts around it, putting it into your body can harm the body. So your thoughts about something do affect it, but where the water's been also affects it. There's waters that are much more blessed and much more potent in healing abilities because of what is around them, nature, rather than honking horns and lawnmowers and weed blowers and things of this sort. Those are noises that are not conducive to harmony within the brain. So what I'm speaking of, this is Jesus. He says, what I'm speaking of is that you can use the element that is water as a means and a way of bringing yourself nourishment, God nourishment. And you speak of the the garden. What is giving the nourishing in the garden is essentially the water within the food that is being eaten. Water is something that we cannot live without. We can live without food. We cannot live without water. Just like we can live without God, but we cannot live without Christ, Jesus,
hmm,
basically.
hmm,
We can live without the belief that we are the creators of our own reality, that we are the witnesses of our own reality, that we are the creators of absolutely everything, but we cannot survive and we cannot continue to breathe air if we do not have Christ flowing through us. And you can live for a certain amount of time without this living water within you. You can live live for a certain amount of time without the ability to forgive, to forget, to move forward, to love, to have compassion, to have strength, to have truth, to have all these things. But you become a very bitter person very quickly, and that bitterness inside of you eats away at your body. Just as you were speaking of the cells in the body becoming brand new over the years. Yes, this is true. And the regenerative power of water and the belief and knowing that you are blessed, you are healed, that you are cleaned, you are washed away, all of the things that you've done no longer exist as you drink blessed water or drink high vibrational water and allow it to be washed away, is reinforced by the fact that the cells in your body go away and new ones begin. So what we are speaking of, I guess, is yes, we brought up water in this channel's mind because water is a very important thing in this world. You must stay hydrated. If you're not hydrated, your vibration goes down. And hydrating with soda pop, hydrating with juice, hydrating things like that doesn't work. It's water, and you must ask that the living water inside of you accept the water that you're giving it as blessed holy water, and your life will begin to transform, because you'll be able to, if you can't accept Christ, if you can't accept Jesus, if you can't accept a man, accept compassion, strength, hope, and truth into your life, and accept it in the form of something physical that is nurturing you, that's healing you, that's bringing forth messages of beauty and love into you. You can even do things that are fun, like playing nice music around a water jug and then drinking that and knowing that that's being brought into you, so that it's bringing harmony into your body. There are many things that can be done with water, but we won't get too into it because we could go on forever about that. But we love water. This is Peter. We love water, water, water.
Mm,
He says, there's no water over here. The
mm,
water does not exist in those plains, just no water. So
wow.
when we come here and we enter into the womb and we're surrounded in water, we're like, ah, water. And
Mm,
then we're born and we're like, oh, no water. But the only place we can find solace is inside of our body, because that's where all the water is. Our bodies are made up of mostly water. So when our consciousness starts to try to leave, we have to find our way back into our body, because that's where the water is, and that's where it feels amazing here. Plus, when you're in the water, you can't hear as many of the frequencies and the vibrations and the horrible sounds that it sounds like. Living on Earth is the most horrible sound you could ever possibly imagine. The sound that this Earth makes is excruciating. But when you're in your body, when you're in the water, you can't you can't hear it as much. People who have tinnitus, the ringing in their ears, are people that are not inside of their body necessarily. Their consciousness has fallen out of themselves into somewhere else, and they're hearing the sounds of the earth, of the world. And it's not a good sound, from electrical sounds that you hear all day long to cars to motors to everything. The sounds are not good. Spirits do not like the sound of the world, and the water mutes that for us a bit. Jesus is saying that he says that we live in a water world, and that when we go into the heavenly realms, that we go into these like water type worlds that are like clouds and all this stuff. But then when we eventually want to come back down here, that we come back down into this water world, but that hell would be considered not being in the water. We would be like kicked out of the water, and we would be stuck out where there's nothing to dampen the sound of the horrible noise of the earth. And we just basically, all we want is to get back into the water. And Jesus rules the water world, the underwater, which is
mm.
interesting, because you always say that aliens live underwater, right?
Yeah, yeah. Do you know, I was watching a documentary this weekend about Admiral Byrd, who discovered, so to speak, Antarctica, and he never put it into all of his writings, but he kept a private diary.
Mm-hmm.
And after he died, his family uh, brought out some of what was in his diary. And Admiral Byrd says that he was flying over over Antarctica when he saw a hole big enough for his plane to fly into. Now, who in the world would fly from the sky into a hole in the ground, not knowing where it's going? But apparently he did.
There was
And
and he flew down in there.
he went through the hole underneath all the ice of the Antarctic,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's just bubbling springs. There's sun. There's plants. There's
Sun?
food. There's everything. Well, it's some kind of manufactured light down there, but it's. I mean, keep in mind, you know how much rain Antarctica gets per year,
I have no idea.
or snow?
I don't know.
Zero.
What?
It never rains. Antarctica never rains.
Well, because it's so cold that it always snows, or
It doesn't even snow.
oh, what?
It's all
Hmm.
ice. It's just ice. It's ice on top of land, and it's not an ocean. It's there may be ocean out on the outskirts of Antarctica, but
Oh,
uh,
it's not a frozen ocean. It's not a frozen. I thought it was just a bunch of water up there frozen. It's like a big ocean frozen.
no, it's down. It's at the south. It's South Pole.
Oh, the
But
South
apparently,
Pole?
yeah, but apparently, uh, then further along in that documentation, that documentary, it was talking about people who saw other UFOs, and one guy found a UFO and he put his hand over a symbol or whatever, and he didn't know what it meant, and he went home and he kept seeing all these zeros and ones in his head, and this was in the 1940s, so he wrote all these zero and ones down,
Mm-hmm.
in his head, and he didn't
It
know
was
what it
code.
was.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no computer code in the 40s. So it wasn't until the 2000s where somebody, apparently before he died, said, "You know what? That sounds like his code. Let's see what it said." And it said, "Don't kill us along with yourselves. Don't." It said, "Don't kill us because of you. This is our world too.
Oh my gosh.
They live
So
here. They live here on this earth, and they share this earth with us. But they just don't make themselves, available to us as we don't to them. And but they're sharing this earth, and they don't like the fact that we're out there making bombs that we want to kill each other. So I have a feeling, they're holding things back. It was also saying how the goofiest things would happen in the nuclear silos in the United States, where there would the silos with the bombs, the rockets that are ready to go at the moment's
mm-hmm.
notice, where all of a sudden everything just goes haywire, like no electronics work, nothing works, everything's work. They can no more send up the rocket than them fly to the moon themselves. So and then it fixes itself. So they're
So
up
what are they,
there.
AIs? Are they like computer people?
I don't know. I have no idea if the UFO people, the ETs, um, are part technology and part human. I don't know. I have no idea. Nobody knows. Nobody
Well, they
knows.
told us, the other night when we did class, like maybe like a month ago, they said that we are part AI, that there's a piece of us that is a level of us that's a second dimensional version of us that is artificial intelligence. And it's not
Hmm.
until we're God consciousness, and then we enter into like these robotic beings that are like artificial intelligence type of energy or metal people or something. And then it's not until the third dimension that we become flesh,
Hmm.
and plant and water and all that stuff. But prior to that, we're just little computer consciousnesses, and after we are God.
Hmm.
So I found that really interesting. It was like a month ago. We did a class on, is AI real? Is AI really bad? And they went on and on and on and basically said that there's a piece of us that we can tune into that is kind of like this artificial intelligence that's created by the earth, that we have access to everything that ever will be and everything that ever was, like through this little computerized piece of us. So I wonder if that is like
Yeah,
beings
I
that
know. They
aren't
even,
physical yet.
yeah, they even surmise that it's possible that these beings who live here or whatever, that were in that ship that said "Don't blow us up,"
Mm.
along with you, um, is in fact they had a year. The year was like something like 6110.
Whoa.
That's 4,000 years from now.
I just got
Uh,
chills all down my head, and because I always say that the guys always say that we're actually from the past.
yeah,
They like
there's
I've
so
always
it's
thought we were from the
apparent
future. Like I
apparently.
thought Trump was from the future and came back, but the guys always say no, we are actually from the past, traveling into the future to live lives. Like it's like we're like from the past and we project our consciousness into the future to live these lives. I have no idea. It doesn't even make any sense to me how we would live, project forward.
They're probably coming back from the future to change something in this present to keep us from blowing ourselves up later on. But that's the only thing I can surmise. You know what? Fastest hour on Earth.
That was,
We
oh
need
my
to.
gosh, it's
Yeah,
150, or it's 158. We can't have it go over an
I
hour.
know.
I agree.
No.
I'm always all paranoid that you're going to cut me off when the guys are channeling, but I think the guys
Yeah.
are smart enough to know that you're stubborn enough to make it end in an hour, so they
Yeah.
get everything in before the hour.
I mean, we can't even go in 10 seconds after. I mean, it's amazing. We got 6,000 views from Thursdays, but we got 190,000 views, I think it is,
Wow,
from our Friday show.
wow.
The Thursday show has 1 minute and 30 seconds over, and
Hmm.
and Fridays was just under the hour. So yeah, we've figured out the
Algorithm. Don't say that.
algorithms.
It's gonna hear it and it's gonna go ha ha ha. Now I'm gonna change again. But
Yeah,
anyways, well, I'll let you go. I would
yeah.
I don't even know what they said. They were talking about water,
We'll
but I need to
talk.
water
We'll
the
talk
horse.
about Gabriel and Muhammad
Yeah.
again tomorrow,
Okay,
if you have a
great.
chance to get in here. So let's just wrap it
Okay.
up right now. If
Wednesdays are the only days I'm not going to be here, because Wednesdays I do readings at 2:30, and then I do
Okay.
class at 5:30. So Wednesdays will be the only days I'm not here. But I will let you go so we don't go over the hour. Bye, everybody. See you
Okay.
tomorrow. Check YouTube. I have a bunch of readings that I just posted recently over on YouTube. They're actually really good if you would like watching those. So,
Good.
okay. All right. Love you, Papa. I'll see you
Okay,
tomorrow.
love you too. All right, thanks,
Okay.
Marissa.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Okay, everybody, we've got to cut this off. Otherwise, this doesn't go out very far. We can get it out to, we got it out to like 300,000 people this weekend. And the day before that, we got it out to like 12,000. And it's because of the time in the show. So I got to go now. I got to go. Have a great Monday, everybody, and a Tuesday, if it's already a Tuesday where you're at. And if God's willing, he'll be bringing us back tomorrow. We'll continue on with the story and bring in a few surprises to boot. All right. So take care, everybody. God bless. Joe Morris, Answers, Heaven Speaks.